There are many exciting and wonderful characters in the Chosen TV series, the first ever multi-season show about the life of Christ, specifically the 12 disciples that accompany Jesus. The whole point of the show is to show Jesus through the eyes of those who knew him, and who knew him best other than the 12 disciples who followed Jesus. And today, what I'm going to be doing is sharing my ranking for all 12 disciples that followed Jesus. And since The Chosen has just finished season 3, what better time to sit down and do a ranking of all 12 disciples. Hello, my name is Eli Hollingsworth, and today we're going to be ranking all 12 disciples from the Chosen TV series. And if you like this video, then be sure to click the like button, and if you're not subscribed to The Current A, the Chosen YouTube channel, then be sure to click that subscribe button and click that notification bell, because you're going to want to be notified whenever I come out with a new video, because I'm going to be coming out with new videos every week. And comment down below if you like this type of video, because this is something I'm experimenting with, doing ranking videos. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and will tell me down below in the comments. But with that said, let's get started with the ranking. And coming in at number 12, I apologize for this one. This might be pretty controversial, but in number 12 we have Thaddeus. And the disciples here in the bottom, like the bottom 5, are all not necessarily based on character, because I think all of the characters in The Chosen are great and awesome. Thaddeus, Giovanni Cairo, who plays him, does a phenomenal job. The writing is great. There's nothing to criticize. I have anything to criticize about the character, other than just we don't see very much of him. He hasn't had yet that kind of character arc that we've seen of really his character growing and changing in a lot of ways. He's just kind of there, so it's hard for me to kind of put him very high up on this list. So hopefully in season 4, Thaddeus will get a bigger screen presence, and if he does, then he'll definitely move up on this list probably. But as of right now, he just kind of has the least amount of story, and I'm kind of sad for that, because the actor Giovanni Cairo is a phenomenal actor, and he does very good job portraying the character, and the writing for all the scenes that he's in is very good. It's just he's not in as many scenes as the other disciples, and that's the only reason that he's on the bottom of this list. But then Thaddeus is a very cool character. His whole monologue about cutting into stone for the first time when Jesus turns the water to wine, which was technically his first, public miracle. Just that whole monologue and how that ties into Jesus' ministry, very cool. Moving on to number 11, we have Thomas, Doubting Thomas. Now the only reason that Thomas is also this low on the list is just because he hasn't had necessarily a super big character arc yet. Now his character is one that is a little bit more interesting to see where that character is going. And again, the actor who portrays him does a phenomenal job. Writing is great. Obviously building up, Doubting Thomas and his character. He's more like a Matthew type character, very analytical, very mathy and thinking through things. But again, someone's got to take the bottom spot. Someone's got to be in the bottom. And I'm not saying that any of these characters are bad. I love Thomas and I love Thaddeus and I love all these characters. They're all very, very well written, very well portrayed. Super cool characters. They're just, someone's got to take the bottom spot. If you're doing a ranking, it's a pretty competitive thing, so it's just the way it is. Coming in at number 10 is Big James, but he hasn't had a significant radical, super emotional journey to go on yet. They're all very complex characters, and they're all very well written. Again, someone's got to be in the bottom. So Big James has always been a funny character, one that super fun to have around and really has a great dynamic with John. Coming in at number 9 is Simon Z. Now, Simon Z would probably be a little bit lower on this list if it wasn't for season 3, where Simon Z does have a character arc. He has an emotional journey that he goes on in season 3, where he's really, distancing himself from the Zealots order that he was a part of, very committed to this very, antagonistic and aggressive order and group of people that he was associating with. And now that he's given up his life to follow Jesus, he's realized that Jesus is not what he thought he was. And he's okay with that. And he's learning to accept that and follow Jesus for being the Messiah. And learning to give up his order. And it's just a really cool character arc and a really cool journey that he goes on this season. And it's one that I really enjoyed watching on the screen. So he He's a very cool character. All these characters are really great, and they all like the group wouldn't be the same without them. The show wouldn't be the same without having these characters there, and they all add so much to the group. And Simon Z is just another example of that. And same thing with our number 8 spot, which is Little James. Now, Little James also has a cool arc this season, character arc, where in episode 2 he confronts Jesus about why he hasn't healed him, and with his handicap that he has, because the actor in real life, Jordan Ross, is he has cerebral palsy. And that storyline was one that was very interesting and emotional to me as someone who also does have cerebral palsy. So I really enjoyed his plot line in season 3, episode 2, and just kind of how his character evolved over the season. It's always been a pleasure to see Little James in the previous seasons, and I'm very excited to see where his character kind of evolves to in the coming seasons. Coming in at number 7 is Judas. Now, Judas hasn't had a huge part in the story yet. He's just kind of been there, but he's always, again, the most interesting one because he's the one that we know where his story ends and where his story is leading to in the coming seasons and what his character will entail. And Judas is just a very clever spin, a very clever twist on how the character is portrayed by Luke Dimian, who does a great job of portraying him, and how he's written by the writers, and how he was introduced in season 2, episode 8. It's kind of a surprise reveal, little twist, little shocker. That was very well done, and I didn't really see coming the first time I watched it, and I wasn't as much involved in the chosen community as I am now, but I still was very much in shock when I learned that that was Judas, and he's just portrayed as a sympathetic character first and foremost, and really, you're just really understanding him as a human being as opposed to this mustache-twirling evil villain, which was a very cool and clever way to portray the character. And Luke Dimian does a great job portraying him. Coming in at number 6 is Nathaniel, who is a character who had a very radical shift in his who he was from the time that he met Jesus, because he was a worker and he was, forwarding his career, and all of that kind of fell apart on him. And he was at this moment, his lowest moment of desperation, just kind of calling out to God, saying, why have you let this happen to me? Why are you doing this to me? And that's when Jesus said that he saw him, and that's when Jesus, talked to him later, and that's when he called Nathaniel through the use of Philip, who I'll talk about in a second. But Nathaniel has just always been a cool character, and he's always a funny character, always barging in on people in the wrong moments. But again, another lively addition to the group. Coming in at number 5 is Philip. Now, Yoshi Barrigas, who plays Philip, does such a great job. And Philip is just a funny character. He's got a lot of dry wit. And he's kind of like the cool one of the group. He's always kind of got it together. Always kind of chill, laid back. Of course, until season 3, episode 8, where he gets a little frantic there. But his character's always been one that's always been, very, very laid back and very reserved, and just kind of like rolling along with. He's a very cool character and a very nice addition to the group, and just a lot of fun to see on screen. The actor Yoshi Barrigas, who plays him, does a great job, and Philip is just a great addition to the group. And coming in at number 4 is actually Matthew, played by Paras Patel, and Paras does a great job portraying Matthew as in the show someone who is on the spectrum, has some kind of autism or something, and Paras Patel really portrays that very well, and just is really kind of playing with his idea of what it would be like to be someone with autism or something, following Jesus, and how he kind of fits into the group, him finding his place, and how he writes his gospel and all that stuff, being a very analytical, very thinking through things mind. And Matthew's always a pleasure to see on screen. Always a very interesting character, and always one that I'm always happy to see explored more. And again, a lot of this ranking has to do with the amount of screen time these characters get, because all of them are very interesting and cool in their own ways. It's just, the amount of screen time they get really does affect where they are in this ranking, because the more we dive into these characters, the more layers we learn that they have. And, the characters who have the most screen time, we know the most about and have the most depth, as opposed to characters who aren't on screen as much. We don't really know a whole lot about them. We don't know about all their layers and all their things that make them tick. So, again, hopefully we'll see a little bit more of that in future seasons. And we do get enough screen time for all of them. I'm not saying some get a whole lot and others get none. It's just sometimes I wish, we'd see a little bit more from some of the other characters. But Matthew definitely gets a lot of screen time, so we get to explore a lot of his layers. He's just a very complex character and very fun. Also very emotional at times, and just a great character to have around. And coming in at number 3 is Andrew, a son of Jonah. So Andrew is an interesting character because he really, does go on a pretty big shift from the time that he meets Jesus. And also in season 3, he has a cool little subtle arc where, at the end of near the end of season 2, Andrew's really worried and really frantic and freaked out. Same thing with the beginning of season 3. Actually, Andrew's really anxious and upset, and he has to go through that and kind of overcome his anxiousness. And then we see him with Philip in season 3, episode 8, in the finale. He's kind of become cool and calm and collected. And he really goes on a journey in season 3 as well as the entire show to kind of, he really grows and changes as a person, as a character, and he's very interesting to watch. And Noah James, who plays him, is a very good actor and portrays his character very well. And really, you can see a lot of personality and a lot of heart coming through with Andrew. So he's always been a very interesting character. But coming in at number 2 is John. And John is I just really like the way George Xanthus portrays the character. He's got a lot of bite. He's got a temper. Same thing with Big James, which again I say really see much about him, but they both have a big temper, and we just see a little bit more of John than Big James. So that's why he's higher up, and he's just a character that resonates with me a little bit more because I just love George Xanthus and the way he portrays John, and just the lively charisma, natural personality that he brings to the character is just something that I really enjoy seeing on screen. He's just, whenever John is on screen, it's really just a fun time. Same thing with all these characters too. And he's just really a standout to me, in my opinion. I just really like the way George Xanthus portrays him. But coming in at number 1, and this should be no surprise to anyone, it is Simon Peter, son of Jonah, the Rock, the main man himself, the face of the show in a lot of places. He's just my favorite character because Simon is a character who resonates with me the most. He's got a lot of sarcasm, he's got a lot of bite to him, he's got a lot of attitude, and I think that Simon is just kind of the most broken out of the group, so he's the one I think a lot of people can relate to the most, just because, we're all very broken and flawed people, and Simon is the one that's probably the most broken and flawed out of all of the disciples, and they're all flawed in their own ways, but Simon is really the one who's he's got a lot, to him, and he's the one who's chosen to be the leader of the disciples in many ways, and just kind of the most unlikely suspect to be a leader, and his flaws are what make him a leader, not what subtract from him being one most of the time. And in season 3, he really goes on a spectacular journey with Eden, his relationship with her, and this miscarriage plot line that's very devastating and heartbreaking, but at the end is very fulfilling emotionally. And Shahar Isaac, who plays Simon, is such a great actor. And in real life, he's pretty quiet, and reserved, and he takes pictures with his film camera, which automatically tells you he's a pretty artsy-fartsy person. And he plays his guitar, and he does some cool music, and he sells prints of his pictures, and he's a really cool dude. So that's partly what inspires him being number 1 on my list. But I really just like Simon Peter. I always love diving deeper into that character and just exploring more layers of his identity. And I just love Simon Peter. He's easily my favorite out of all the disciples. It is a very hard ranking to do. The chosen rankings are very hard because the seasons all pretty much on the same level of quality, so it's really hard to differentiate between the 3 seasons. And the disciples, all of them are written as such complex, complicated people. They're almost like real people who really jump out of the screen and almost feel like they just exist they're just in real life. So it's really hard to do these rankings because they're all pretty much on the same level. But Simon Peter is definitely stand out to me. And I hope you enjoyed my ranking of the disciples. Be sure to share your ranking of the disciples. How would you rank the disciples? Who's your favorite? Who's your least favorite? Let me know down below in the comments section down below. And be sure to check me in my next video. And again, if you haven't subscribed against the current The Chosen YouTube channel, then be sure to click that subscribe button and click that notification bell, because I'm going to be coming out with a lot of Chosen content over the next few years until season 7 comes out. So you're not going to want to miss that. And link is down below in the description to listen to my podcast if you want to hear more of me, if you want to hear my reviews of every episode of the show, and lots of other fun stuff. My interview with Dallas Jenkins, all of that's down there in the description. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Goodbye.
I was one way found me, I was not the one you see. And the only thing that happened was this stranger